Achieve 7 to 10% average rates of return. In this episode, we are going to address the question, what are the actual historical rates of return on indexed universal life? This is actually episode 16 out of 21, a series titled Secrets to a Tax-Free Retirement. In this particular episode, I'm going to enlighten you on the historical actual rates of return achieved, because my favorite vehicle is what I call a laser fund. And if you watch the entire series, which is a free course, you will be empowered to accumulate an extra $1 million that can generate $100,000 a year of tax-free income for as long as you live. My name's Doug Andrew, and I've been a financial strategist and retirement planning specialist for more than 45 years. My favorite vehicle or repository for my serious cash is what I call the Laser Fund, which is actually a maximum funded, tax-advantaged, indexed universal life insurance policy. But I call it the Laser Fund because it passes the liquidity, safety, rate of return test with flying colors, and it's tax-free to boot. But oftentimes people ask me, come on, Doug, I have never seen an insurance policy yield 7, 8, 9, 10% like you tout. And I'm going, well, then you haven't seen the ones that we've created. We have thousands of clients who have achieved average rates of return between 7 and 10%. If you haven't seen one do that, it doesn't mean it doesn't exist. That's why it's so important for you to go through and learn from this mini course. It's free so that you can take advantage of this. I don't want you to miss out. So how do you do that? If you've been watching the other episodes in this series, you understand that you're trying to take the least amount of insurance the IRS will let you get away with to put in the most premium that the IRS allows, as fast as the IRS allows, and it turns into this sacred tax-free cash cow. And you've heard me say for the last 25 years, I've averaged 11.17. I've netted over 10% internal rate of return. Now, a lot of times people go, what do you mean by internal rate of return? I can't believe some advisors get this deer in the headlight look when I say, what's the IRR, internal rate of return on your product? Many times whole life insurance agents will say, well, what do you mean? I'm saying, well, yeah, you're touting that the insurance company pays really good dividends. I remember back in 2005, I had a lot of whole life insurance agents come through my training, and they were like blown away because they were never trained about universal life. And I said, so what's your rate of return on your whole life? And they said, 8%. I said, no, the internal rate of return. They go, 8%. I said, no, it isn't. Well, how do you calculate the internal rate of return? See, they're never taught to calculate that because the companies don't want them to know. What that means is if you put premiums into the insurance policy and it grows, and the cash value is equal to X amount at age 65 or age 95 or age 100, you take whatever it grew to, and it's tax-free, and you calculate the money that was deposited into it at the time frames that it went in, and you will calculate the internal rate of return. In other words, what is the interest you would have to be earning to end up with this much money? It's a complicated type of an equation many times. It shocked them because even though they thought they were earning 8%, they weren't netting 8% cash on cash. They were netting only about 5.9%. Not by age 65. That took until age 95. When it came to illustrating predictable income, if you had $1 million of cash value, I said, no, let's look at a payout now of 7 to 10%. $1 million should be able to generate $70,000 a year of tax-free income without depleting principal. If you're earning a net of 10%, like I've been earning, $1 million of cash value should generate $100,000 a year of tax-free income for as long as you live. They can't do that. They can't even begin to come close to illustrating that with their whole life insurance policies. Same thing is true of advisors who have your money in the market. See, money in the market will grow, hopefully. You have market volatility, but when it comes to show me a predictable income, they can only show you about 4% payout. Hello? $1 million generating 40,000 a year? That's pretty pathetic. And then you have to pay tax on the 40,000. If the money was in an IRA or 401k, you now have to pay tax. And so in a 25% tax bracket, you pull out 40,000, you're only netting 30,000 because you have to pay 25% of the 40,000 in tax. And then they charge you 1% to manage the million. Asset managers usually charge at least 1%. That's another 10 grand. You're pulling out 40,000 and really only netting 20,000 or 2%. Folks, would you rather earn 8% tax-free or a net of 2% after tax? How much more is 8 than 2? Don't say 6. It's 400% more money. But many times I've been able to earn 10% in an insurance company that is only earning maybe 8%. So let me pose a question to you that I can stump most people, especially financial advisors, with. How can an insurance company that is earning a general account portfolio rate of return, this is on their billions of dollars of assets, let's say they're earning 5%. How can an insurance company that is only earning 5% rate of return on their billions of dollars afford to pay you 8%? And if you have $1 million or every million you have in the insurance policy, how can they give you $100,000 a year? In other words, a 10% payout without depleting the principal of $1 million. Did you understand the question? How can an insurance company that's only earning 5 afford to pay you 8, but give you 10% a year and never deplete your principal? You wouldn't believe how many advisors have no clue how to answer that question. I'm about to answer it for you. So if you've been watching this entire series, maybe you've figured this out. But if not, let me connect a few dots thus far. In an indexed universal life insurance policy, if the insurance company is earning a general account portfolio rate of, let's say, 5%, which is about what they've been earning the last 10, 15 years. So if you have $1 million in the policy, 5% would be 50 grand. So you can choose to just take the 50,000 of tax-free interest, use it for income. You can let it sit there and compound and grow. But do you remember how to link to an index? So when you do that, your $1 million stays safe in the insurance company earning 5. So the answer is, well, how can they afford to pay you 8% or 10% or some years 15 or 20% if they're only earning 5? Folks, it's because you are relinquishing the for sure 5% interest. You're telling the insurance company, do not put my $1 million at risk in the market. It must stay safe in the insurance company earning 5. But you can use the 5%, the 50,000 of interest on my $1 million this year. I'll let that go. But don't you mess around with my $1 million principal. Because if the economy tanks, I don't want to lose my $1 million principal. So they take that $50,000 and they buy upside options in the index or indices of your choice. If I chose the S&P 500, the Dow Jones, the Russell 2000, the Barclays, they buy upside options with that 50,000. So if the market goes up 10%, 50,000 doubles to 100,000 with those options. If it goes up 15%, 50,000 triples to 150,000. They wouldn't offer it if the options did not allow them to have the wherewithal to pay you. So even though they're only earning 5, you let them off the hook to keep your for sure 5. I'm willing to take 0. Don't want to lose my $1 million. I'm willing to take 0 if the market crashes. But I want you to let me participate if the market goes up. And so historically, I have earned 7.5% to 8% if I just chose that and never changed that choice. In other words, by using indexed universal life, I've tweaked my rate of return by at least 2.5 percentage points from the general account portfolio rate of 5, which is a fixed universal life. So I went from 5 to 7.5 or 8. So do you understand how an insurance company can afford to pay you 8? When they're only earning 5? Because you allow them to take the 5% interest, the money, and buy upside options, and they're off the hook if the market loses because the options expire worthless. And because most years in a 10-year period, 7 out of the 10 years generally, the market will be up, I will average normally around 7.5 to 8% rate of return using indexing. By rebalancing, I can tweak that up to 10% because during bad decades like 2000 to 2010, instead of 5 loss years where I don't lose but I don't make anything, 0 was my hero, I only had 2 loss years, as I've explained in previous episodes, and I still earned the 5% general account portfolio rate. So by rebalancing, I'm able to tweak my return up to the 9 and 10% range. Our clients, thousands of them, have annual statements. And when you come through intensive training, the licensed advisors will show you actual statements of people who have earned 15, 16%, 12%. Those returns are real. And you will see that, and the internal rate of return is within 1% of the gross rate of return on all of these policies. Historical rates of return have averaged between 7 to 10%. But let me answer the final part of that question. So in episode 12, I talked about what millionaires and billionaires do. This is how money really works. So when you access your money the smart way, I taught you in previous episodes that if I borrow out my money and I use index loans, they may charge me 5%, but I continue to earn 10, or some years 15, some years 25%, like in 2017. So by using that arbitrage or that spread, generally speaking, you're able to earn an extra 2% or more higher than the borrowing rate when you're taking out your money. Because of all of these combined factors, an insurance company that is only earning 5% on their general account portfolio can afford to pay you 7, 8, 9% because you're linking to an index by allowing them to take the interest on your money and buy upside options. But I'm able to tweak the rate of return another 1 or 2% to where I can have a payout of 10%. $1 million nest egg in my insurance contract can generate $100,000 a year of tax-free income without depleting principal because I'm taking it out the smart way. I'm earning a spread between the borrowing rate and the earning rate. And we have had clients for years who, with an insurance company only earning 5% on the general account portfolio, they are actually being credited 8%, but they're actually able to pull out 10% a year because of the arbitrage and not deplete their principal. This is so powerful, and most financial advisors sit there with a deer in the headlight look when I explain this to them because they've never been shown how money really works. So if you would like to study a lot of examples, actual historical rates of return for the last 10, 20, 30, 40 years, back to the Great Depression, I would advise you to study my most recent best-selling book, The Laser Fund. It's my 11th book. It's 300 pages containing charts, graphs, explanations. You can dive deep. If you like to learn by stories, you flip it over. You read these 12 chapters, about 100 pages with 62 actual client stories showing the results. But folks, I want to gift you a copy of this book free. I'll pay for the book. To claim your free gift, go to laserfund.com. You simply pay $5.95 shipping and handling. I'll pay for the book. I'll send it out to you, and you can also look at the audio version, the digital version. There's also an 18-hour masterclass. But for sure, watch this next episode so that you complete this free course on how to have a brighter future by accumulating, accessing, and transferring your money tax-free.